Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're joining us today. This is Module 11 of the Government Contracting Series. This is an optional module. It covers the certification document. So for those of you who are seeking certifications like woman-owned, small business, disadvantaged business, all of those certifications, this is kind of an overview of what to expect with regards to the supporting documents that you're going to need to gather to complete the application process. And so all the certifications have a couple of different steps. The first step is typically to create an account within the system. The second step is to then confirm the account. The third step is to then complete the registration. The fourth step is to complete the application. The fifth step is then to supply the supporting documents or upload the supporting documents, and then you submit and you wait. So my name is Cheryl Brown. I am the director of the North San Diego SBDC. I'm also a procurement advisor for the San Diego and Imperial Valley SBDC network. So this module is all about the various documents needed to complete the certification applications. The hardest part, and the part we really can't help you with, is gathering the documents. The documents justify whatever it is you have stated on your application. Now, the analyst, the certification analyst, is looking at these documents because they simply want to confirm that you meet the requirements of the certification. And so this is the hardest part. This is the part that takes the longest time, especially if you're not the most organized person out there, or if you've been in business for a really, really long time, because you'll need more and more documents and more paper. Rule of thumb: if the document exists for the business, you must provide it. If the document does not exist for the business for whatever reason, you will want to put together a letter of explanation as to why it doesn't exist. I know it's a pain. This is something that we help you with, though, so don't panic. So for an example, one of the certifications is going to ask you for the DE9. This is your payroll records for the last 4 quarters. Well, if you don't have any W-2 employees, you wouldn't have any DE9s. So in that case, we just put together a very basic statement. ABC Corporation, as of January 1st, 2023, does not have any W-2 employees. Therefore, there are no DE9s for the company. Just very simple, very basic. Don't overcomplicate it. What we're to do here is we're just trying to help the certification analysts check their box. Because that's really all they're doing. They got a list of documents they need to review. And as they review those documents, they're going to see, did you supply this? Yes. Did you supply it? Yes. Did you supply it? Yes. If you didn't supply it, like the case with the DE9s, they're going to come back and say, please provide the DE9s. And then you have to go back and say, we don't have any DE9s because we don't have any employees. So we're trying to mitigate that back and forth situation, which delays the certification process. So rule of thumb is, if it exists, you must supply it. If it doesn't exist, we'll simply put together a letter of explanation as to why it doesn't exist. Some examples is some of the applications are going to ask you for maybe 3 years of your company tax returns. Well, if you only started the business this year, you wouldn't have tax returns. So that's okay. You simply put a letter of explanation that states ABC company was established in 2023, therefore no tax returns have been filed for the company. 2023 will be the first year that the company files taxes. I know it's obvious. You're like, well, why doesn't the certification analyst just see that we didn't start till 2023? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for it. But this is just a way to make sure that they're able to check that box. We already mentioned the DE9s with regards to whether or not you have W-2 employees. Now, the certification applications are, if you're a corporate, are going to ask for all the legal paperwork for your company. So, for example, if you're a corporation, they're going to ask for the articles of incorporation, the statement of information, the bylaws, the initial meeting minutes, all the annual meeting minutes after the initial, the stock certificates, front and back, the stock transfer letter. This is where it gets tricky. So we're going to go off the grid here. Don't tell anybody. If you have a corporation and you did not do any of those other things, I'm sure you did. You just need to find it. So here's a disclaimer. You are not permitted to recreate, destroy, or backdate corporate records. There, I said it. But if it's just you and only you, I'm sure that those records are somewhere. You just need to find them. Wink, wink. If you need assistance with any of those documents, let us know. We have advisors that can help you. Now, we cannot provide you with legal counsel, but we can provide you with templates and basic non-legal guidance as to how to develop these statements and these documents. But don't tell anyone. So the documents that are most often incomplete are actually the corporate documents. And depending on your legal entity, whether you're a sole proprietor, an LLC, or corporation, that can be pretty daunting. So one of my favorite DIY local legal resources is NOLO. Now, NOLO has a bunch of books and stuff that you can buy. You don't need to do that. Their website has a ton of information at no cost to you. We also can provide you with some templates that you basically just have to fill in the blanks based on how you want your company set up. So as an example, if you are a sole proprietorship, you'll be required to supply the fictitious business name statement. If you are a partnership, you will need to provide the fictitious business name statement as well as the partnership agreement signed by all partners. If you're an LLC, you will need to provide the articles of organization, the statement of information, as well as your operating agreement signed and dated. With the corporation, the list is all right here. Your articles, statement of information, bylaws, meeting minutes, stock certificates. They want both the front and the back. The reason why they want the back is because a lot of stock certificates have the transfer record on the back. And so they want to make sure that that stock certificate hasn't been transferred. Also the stock transfer ledger. And this isn't very common, but if you happen to have a shareholders agreement outside of the bylaws, then you would need to provide that as well. So these are the documents that are most often incorrect, incomplete, and whatnot. If you don't know whether or not you have these documents, feel free to reach out to us and we can schedule you an appointment with one of our startup advisors and they can help you in review, making sure you have all of these documents. So what else? What are the other supporting documents? So all the supporting documents that are being requested are to support whatever is on the application. It's not just enough to say that you're a small business. You need to demonstrate and prove that you are, in fact, a small business, and that's where the supporting documents comes into play. So for all of you, at the very least, you are going to have a small business certification. So with the small business certification, the documents that need to be electronically gathered, because all of these portals are done online now, is the EIN letter, your federal tax returns for the last 3 years. They don't need the state, just the federal. You do need to make sure that you include the e-file signature page or make sure you actually sign your tax returns. Even if you had a tax preparer do your tax free, they want to see that signature. If you have filed an extension for any of those 3 years, you will need to provide the extension document as well. If you have W-2 employees, you'll also need to provide the DE-9 for the last 4 quarters. Now remember, if you don't have employees, just a letter of explanation is satisfied. And then the legal document. That is the easiest certification to get. It's got the least amount of supporting document requirements. Now, We go from the easiest to the most difficult, which is the DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. This certification is very similar with regards to the supporting documents as the 8A. Now, you will find that the documents that we're requesting when you're pursuing certifications are a little bit more extensive than what's actually on the application. And the reason behind that is because we know that the analyst is going to ask for them. And so we try to be the first line of defense. So when you're seeking certifications, the first thing we're going to instruct you to do is to gather the supporting documents. As you're gathering the supporting documents, you can either email them to us, upload them into a shared folder and give us access, and we become the first line of defense. We're going to review the document and go back and forth with, no, you need this, no, you need that, or please sign this. So we're going to review those documents before we even submit. Once we have all the documents together, then it's time to complete the application and upload the documents. We're here as advisors to help you as much or as little as you need. And so, our role is to not only make it easier for you, but also easier for the analyst to process your application as quickly as possible. So for the DBE, I'm going to go through these documents simply because they are the most extensive, and it'll give you a good idea in case you're going to need to get these documents for something else. So one of the things that they do ask for is what they call a personal net worth statement. This is what it looks like. So you'll see some of it's pretty easy. You're like, okay, this is easy. And then they want to know about your personal financial situation. This has no impact whatsoever on your ability to perform as on a contract. They want to make sure that your personal net worth does not exceed the thresholds of the certification. So on this, you would have your cash. This is in your own personal bank account. If you have a retirement account, you would want to know what the liquidated value of it is. And typically, if it's on your statement, if it says 100,000, you want to shave off about 30% right off the top for fees and penalties. If you have any kind of brokerage accounts, any kind of assets held in a trust, so if you have a trust, what the value is, and the list goes on and on. Notes payable to banks and others. These are primarily loans, not necessarily credit cards. These are loans, so student loans, anything other than a car loan, because your car loans are actually going to be listed in Section 6. So these are your auto loans. This is your RVs, your travel trailers, your motorcycles, your collectible cars, or anything like that. Then you have your general household goods and jewelry. Think of this as a way of anything that has a significant value. So typically when we're looking at household goods or personal goods, usually the value of it is about 10 to 20,000. Not as if you were to sell everything in your home, what would be the market value or what could you sell it for? This is again, anything that has a significant value. Maybe you have antiques or artwork or jewelry. Anything that you would have like a personal insurance policy on would be listed here. Some of the other things that they do ask for is unpaid taxes. If you have any unpaid taxes, if there's any transfers, this is pretty rare. That doesn't usually happen. If you own other companies, what the value of those companies are. Now that then goes, so you have all those values with life insurance here. This is only if you have a whole life insurance policy that has a cash value. Now, don't panic. We're here to help you. In fact, on this document here on the very last page, it actually gives you some instructions on what to include here. But it's kind of a lot. So if you have any questions on what you're supposed to include or what you're not supposed to include, just send us an email. We'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you as you're going through this. Now, some applications, some certifications are going to require that you have an affidavit signed and notarized. This is the only hard cost associated with certification. This is having this document notarized. Now, typically, there are different levels of notaries. You only need the basic one, whatever the cheapest one is. So I think it's right now they range from like $12 to $20. You'll need your EIN letter. If you don't have your EIN letter, any other official document that has your EIN number on it will satisfy. Okay. Women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, LGBTQ-owned, and persons with disability owned. Don't shoot the messenger. You do need proof that you are a member of that group. So, for example, if you are a woman-owned, you need to provide either your passport or your birth certificate, something that states that you are in fact a woman. Now, I don't want to get into a huge discussion about this, but if you identify as, that's fine. If you have a document that says that you are a woman, that's all I need. Whether or not, it's just, we're not going to go there. But you do need to have some sort of document that states that you are a member of that group. This also goes with our minority groups. This can be a little tricky. Typically, minority status or proof of group membership with a minority group is designated on your birth certificate. Now, with the birth certificates, you can either go down a generation or up a generation or generations. So, for example, my husband is half Hispanic. So you never know it because he's white as mayonnaise. And his last name is Brown, go figure. But he is. His mom is 100% Mexican. So when we tried to go and get the certification for minority business enterprise, and I got his birth certificate, where his parents are, where it says his mom, it says white. I'm like, all right. So we went then to his great-grandmother, or to his grandmother, white. Then we went to the great-grandmother, white. Fortunately, his family keeps some really good ancestor records. We had to go back 5 generations to show that lineage. Now, when our son was born, when I filled out his birth certificate and I put his dad's name there, I clicked off Hispanic. That way I don't have to go through that again. So take a look at your birth certificate. If you are a member of a minority group, take a look at your birth certificate. And typically this designation is designated with your mom and dad's information. Some areas, some places, depending on where you were born, when you were born, this may not be as easy to get as you would think. There are other ways to get this information. Usually, though, it requires you to join an organization that is part of that minority group. You can also get a letter from your doctor. Let's start with the birth certificate. That might be the easiest. Also, you do need to prove that you are, in fact, a U.S. citizen or legal permanent U.S. resident alien. So you need proof of membership, proof of group, proof of citizenship. The tax returns. This is almost all the certifications require tax returns. For this particular certification, not only do they want the business tax returns for the last 5, that's right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they also want your personal tax returns for the last 5 years. I know it's a pain. Feel free to redact any identifying information. If you're not comfortable with providing your tax returns, I'll tell you right now, don't pursue certification. There is no go around on this one. They also want to see your resume and the resume of the owners. Now, this is not any kind of like 20-page curriculum vitae. This is really just a basic chronological resume that includes your position with the company and about 3 to 5 bullets for each. You want to go about 10 years back. The analyst is wanting to see that you have the experience within this industry to control the company, and that's why they're asking for the resume. They're also going to want to see the bank signature document or a letter from the bank stating who the authorized signers are. So as an example, This is, whoops, this is an example of a bank authorization. You received this when you opened up your business bank account. So you'll just need to look at those documents. You may have shredded it or got rid of it, not knowing that you would need this. So if that's the case, you do need a letter from your bank stating who the authorized signers are on the bank account, on the business bank account. The reason they want to see this, they want to make sure that there's nobody else, like the owner of Qualcomm, who's authorized to make deposits or withdrawals. They just want to make sure there's no affiliation with any larger company that might disqualify you from being considered a small business. Ooh. Okay. Proof of initial investment to start the company for all owners. Now, if the company started more than 7 years ago, don't worry about it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put together a letter of explanation. Because you wouldn't be required to keep the documents for more than 7 years. So, for example, here, documented proof of contributions. ABC was created on October of 2012 by so-and-so. Linda invested approximately 1,000. In addition, she transferred the money invested. They want to know who invested and why they invested it and what it was used for. So this is something we would do if the company is more than 7 years old. But if the company is less than 7 years old, you do need to provide this. And typically this is provided in one of two ways. When you started the business, you may have made some business-related purchases utilizing your own personal credit card or your own personal bank. If that is what you did, you will want to supply the bank statements or the credit card statements of those purchases and highlight those purchases. Most importantly, the analyst wants to see where did the monies come from to start the business. And the why they're asking for this is they want to make sure that you are not being bankrolled or funded by a larger corporation for the purpose of taking advantage of these certifications. Another thing that you may have done is you may have opened up a business bank account. When you opened up that business bank account, you most likely deposited money. Where did those monies come from? So if that's what you did, you want to show the proof of deposit to the business bank account and the account in which the withdrawal occurred. As you go through this, if you have questions, don't stress. Just ask. That's what we're here for. This module is almost as bad as the certification module because I'm just like blah, 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 blah. Deep breath. One step at a time. You'll also need to provide any kind of licenses. So your business license, a seller's permit, if you are a contractor with the construction trades, your CSLB license. If you're a trucking company, they're going to want to see your motor carrier permit. They're also going to want to see photos of the trucks. I mean, the list does go on and on quite. If you have had contracts, you want to provide at least 5 provide up to 5 contracts, invoices, or purchase orders. If you haven't had these, that's okay. We'll just put together a letter of explanation stating so. If the owners are paid a W-2 salary, you will need to provide the payroll records of all the owners. One of the requirements is that the qualifier must be the highest compensated officer, and this is how we prove it. Your balance sheet and your profit and loss statement for the last 3 years. Again, if you've only been in business for a year, then you would only provide what you have. So they also want to know the proof of the business location. So if you're operating out of a home-based business, which many of us are, you'd want to provide the property tax statement, the mortgage statement, or your lease agreement to show that you are in fact person or people responsible for that property, because that's how you're operating. If you do have a separate agreement or a separate office, you'll need to provide that as well. If you are renting a co-working space, you'll want to provide that proof of the document, as well as proof of payment for the rent. So this could be a canceled check. This could be a statement from your banks with the payment. Again, The analyst is just making sure that some other large company is not paying for any part of your company in which that could give them or give you a an affiliation title or affiliation with that larger company. If you have employees, you want a complete list of employee names, dates of employment, and job titles. If you have heavy equipment, you're going to want to provide the titles or who owns them. If you lease equipment, you want to be able to show the titles and all of that. If the company has any loans or security agreements, we want to provide that documentation. So quite a lot. Now, big difference between this one and then the small business. So I feel let's start with the small business. In addition, there are some other uncommon things. There are some industry specific requirements. So for example, if you've had any decertifications or denials, if there's a trust, if any of the owners have a trust, then you may have to supply the trust documents. For heavy equipment firms, trucking firms, they want to see photos of the equipment in the trucks. They want to make sure they have photos of the DOT numbers. Where are these titles? Where are these? Where's the heavy equipment, or where are these trucks stored? All of it, all of this they want. There have been times, and back in the day, when we used to do paper applications, like literally some of these packets would be like this thick. It's crazy. If you are a supplier, this is extremely important. They want you to list out the distribution equipment that you own or you lease. They want to know who you represent. They want to see the manufacturer's agreement as to your authorization to represent them. They want to have a list of product lines carried, and then they want you to develop an explanation of your role in the supplier process. They want to make sure that you're not acting as a pass-through and that you are truly providing an instrumental piece of function to be a supplier. And then finally, all of the legal documents for the company. Whew. All right, a little more coffee. So in your first appointment with an advisor, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to assess which certifications you would be eligible for. And then based on the services or products or industries you're in, we would then determine what certifications are going to be the best ones for you to pursue initially. We'll then send you an email that says certification instructions in the subject line with the supporting documents and the instructions based on those certifications. And we just take it one by one. Some of our clients, they're like, okay, I got the list. I'll get it all together. Once I'll let you know. Some of my other clients are like, oh my gosh, I can't even look at that list. Can I just send you one or two documents at a time? Absolutely. Absolutely. I do this all the time. A lot of our clients, you know, when they look at a list like this, they just get overwhelmed. So if you find that you're getting overwhelmed, we'll go by and we'll just do, okay, let's start with the 2 or 3 documents. Start 2 or 3 more documents and we'll just chisel away. The whole purpose is to justify and support the information that is in the application. That's really all it is. And it has no impact, no influence whatsoever on whether or not you have the capabilities to be a contractor or to supply the products or services. This is just to support and ensure that A, you are in fact independently owned and operated. B, you are a member of the group that you are designating. And 3, you are not being influenced or supported by a larger corporation that could potentially be taking advantage of your group membership to leverage contracts. That's all they're looking for. That's all they're wanting to make sure of. Okay. First of all, don't panic. Take a deep breath. One document at a time. Each certification is different, and each one has their own supporting document requirements. So depending on the certifications you're eligible for, depending on the industry that you're in, that's going to help us determine which certifications are going to make the most sense. We are going to act as the first line of defense. We're going to review the documents for you. We're going to be nitpicking. Oh, you got to sign this. Oh, you need to include that, or you need to do that, so that when you do get ready to submit, it goes as smoothly as possible. As I mentioned earlier, the documents on our list is much more extensive. That's what was on the application. And that's just because we know they're going to ask for them, and we try to eliminate any back and forth. And yes, don't shoot the messenger. You do have to prove that you are a member of your identified group. If you want to have a conversation more about how do you do that, or I'll be more than happy to have that conversation with you, but I don't make the rules. I'm not a certification analyst. I don't get to say who gets certified and who doesn't. I'm just here to educate and help you navigate these systems as painlessly as possible. But yes, you do have to provide documentation that you are a member of the identified group that you are claiming. Okay, so we did talk a little bit already about the personal financial statement. This is actually only required for the DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and then the 8A. With the personal financial statement, this is your personal financials. So it doesn't have anything to do with the company or anything like that. So what you do is you list out anything that you could possibly sell, anything that you could liquidate. When we're looking at the state of California, since we're in a community property state, the rule of thumb is, I keep on saying rule of thumb in this module, I find, is throw community property laws out the window and think about it this way. Anything that is 100% in your name, you claim 100% of that asset value and 100% of any liability associated with that asset. Now, if you own something that's in other people's names, then you claim that ownership interest in assets and liabilities. So for example, if you own a vacation home with your brother and sister, you would claim 1/3 of that asset and 1/3 of any liabilities associated with that asset. Your personal net worth threshold does not include your primary residence, nor does it include any non-liquid retirement such as a pension. So although you're not going to be including that, you do need to list it on the document. There are instructions on how to complete the personal financial statement. We can help you through the whole thing. It does get kind of daunting, but think about this. If you look around and say, okay, what would I liquidate? What can be sold? And what is the value of it? You're not going to be required to supply supporting documentation unless asked. So utilize your best judgment, be upfront and honest. So if you are asked, you can say, oh, well, I utilize the value of my home utilizing Zillow. If you own a home overlooking the cliffs of La Jolla and you say that it's valued at $1, yeah, the analyst is going to say, I don't think so. Prove it. Can you show an appraisal that says $1? Already, you win. So just remember that any values that you provide in your personal financial net worth statement, can you justify if asked? With the 8A certification, you will be required to upload your retirement statements, your mortgage statements, and other documents like that. But when we get to this type of a certification, it's usually we're doing a little bit more in-depth assessment. So I'm just kind of giving you the fire engine, a fire hose of certification. If asked, you have to be prepared to supply all the financial records of the information that you have provided. So this is a great opportunity. I know that you don't want to hear this. This is a great opportunity to get organized. Start putting everything together. If you don't have it electronically, start putting these files together electronically so you have them. A tip. As you're saving these documents electronically to your computer or to the cloud, make sure you're saving the documents in search easy terms. So for example, articles of incorporation. Take a moment and write it out. articles of incorporation, California, EIN number, bank authorization statement, write it all out as you save it. That way you can easily search for those documents when you need to. Whew. Okay. Frequently asked questions. Are all these documents necessary? Yes. If you want to get certified, yes, you need to provide the documents that are being asked. If you don't want to provide those documents, then don't apply for certification. In the 15 years I have been doing this, there has never been a situation in which an analyst accepted an application without some of the supporting documents. They are required. Do you need to be certified? No. I want you to go and refer back to the certification module. You don't have to be certified. Having the certification can help you. Like I said, I would say for everybody that's watching these modules, let's start out with the small business certification. It's the easiest one. It's got the most bandwidth. And then we can start looking at some of the more intricate or more involved certifications, if it makes sense. What if I just started my business and I don't have these documents? That's okay. In fact, it's almost perfect for an advisor, because if you just started your business, most of these documents you don't have. So all we're going to do is put together a bunch of letters of explanation. Boom, easy peasy. Typically, the longer the company has been in business, the more difficult it can be to gather the document. Can we assist you? Of course. Of course, that's what we're here for. These modules are just a way to get you some information, to make you, and not have enough information to make you dangerous. But ultimately, they're just the starting point for you. The real work occurs when we work one-on-one. If I get certified with one entity, does that mean I'm certified with others? No. No. That would make it too easy. Wouldn't it make it way too easy? I don't make the rules. I don't necessarily agree with the rules, but I'm going to tell you right now, no, there isn't just one certification. If I were to say, what's the best certification for you? I couldn't even answer that without working one-on-one with you. It all depends on the industry and your customer. The final question I often get is, what if everything I have is in a trust? That's okay. That's okay, but you will have to provide that trust. On a side note, for those of you who are married, whether it be a traditional marriage or a domestic partnership, there is a possibility that you may have to have a transmutation agreement developed and signed, making that company your sole, the qualifier's sole and separate property. If that's a concern, we can have that conversation offline, and I can guide you, provide you with the best guidance on there. Typically, we only see this request on the veteran certifications and the 8A certifications. So just keep that in mind. Okay, that's it. That's all she wrote. This is all I got. 11 modules, 10 mandatory, the 11th module on the certification documents, the optional. What isn't it? Just do it. Hopefully you've already completed module 10. So you've already completed your pre-certification packet, and maybe you have your appointment scheduled, or you're waiting for the appointment to be scheduled. This is going to give you additional information for your certifications. So, if you want to get a start, go ahead and start gathering some of these documents. You'll have them. Have them saved on your, on your desktop, or have them saved in your thumb drive, or wherever, the cloud. Make sure you save them in a way that you can remember, and make sure that they're accessible. I find it sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, where did I put that document? But if you really want to get a head start and you want to, start working on this, start gathering the documents, tax returns, EIN. Those handouts are going to be part of the workshop here. So you should be able to download them as part of your registration. But honestly, ta-da, you're done. That's it. Of course, if you need extra help, immediate help, send us an email. But it's been an absolute pleasure to guide you and support you and hopefully entertain you, keep you awake during these 11 modules. If you have any questions, we're here to help. If it's outside of government contracting, we're still here to help. We have over 120 advisors that speak over 40 different languages throughout 9 service centers. Just email us and let us know what it is that you need, and we'll connect you with the appropriate advisor and resource to help move you forward. It's what we're here to do. It is our role to help support you and help you be successful. Until next time, don't panic. Enjoy the rest of your morning, your day, your evening. Look forward to working with each and every one of you and learning about your success. Have a great one.